Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a very resplendent, sunny Carrow Road. The lawnmowers are on. This will be the backdrop for the final time this season, irrespective of what happens from here. Playoff semi-final first leg has finished Norwich City 0, Leeds United 0. And if I'm honest, and just listen to both managers in their press conferences, and both of them probably feeling pretty content at this moment in time. The fact that the second leg now is effectively a straight shootout. It is effectively a one-off, and you have to say from a Norwich perspective that potentially can suit them, but plenty to get into on that front in a moment. Are available, and quite frankly, there's no bigger occasion than what they are playing for at this moment in time. So in they came, even though they're probably not capable at the moment of playing 90 minutes after Birmingham. David Wagner said John Rowe was capable of 45. I think we saw a pretty bright start peter out pretty quickly, and that's probably evidence of where he is from a fitness perspective. Dimi Yanulis probably looked a little bit more durable, to be honest, even though he's been back for a lesser period of time. But first half an hour, I thought Norwich City came out with real intent. They matched the atmosphere in this place, which was electric before the game. Definitely the opening half an hour of it, with their intent, their intensity. Leeds probably set up to contain that, and actually I felt they did a very good job. Actually, both sides did a pretty good job at neutralising the threat of the other teams, I felt, and that probably sums up the afternoon in all truth. It was cagey, it was tense, it was very, very short on quality, and probably felt like by the end the result that both managers were pretty content with. Norwich, as I said, opening half an hour I thought they were good. They had good intent, good energy, without really materially creating anything and cashing that in for real opportunities. Ilan Meslier not really worked throughout the afternoon, to be honest, and Daniel Farke made a point in his post-match press conference of speaking about how pleased he is that they were able to limit Norwich to very little, if not any chances, really. I'm not sure he beyond one save from a Sarah free kick, which was tame. I'm not sure he's really had to stop anything this afternoon. And that opening half an hour, that opening first half, really felt very on the cusp of something happening, and probably lacking in quality, lacking in a moment, lacking in Norwich just being able to unlock the door on occasion. Actually, as the game grew older and as the game grew on, Leeds United wrestled back a little bit more control, but probably without that punch as well, similarly to Norwich. And we all know the issues that they've had prior to this playoff campaign. I think it was very clear that Daniel Farke set them up to be quite pragmatic, to be quite conservative, to limit Norwich City to very little. They put Archie Gray in there to try and rat about essentially against Marcelino Nunez and Kenny McLean. I thought they did a good job at disrupting Norwich from really gaining any momentum as the game wore on. And then they hoped that the attacking quality that they had in Somerville, in Nonso, would be enough to go and create a moment for them. But Norwich defended pretty well by and large for the majority of the encounter. So I think it probably was, 0-0, probably a fair reflection on how the game transpired. If I'm being completely honest, it was probably not a great watch for a neutral. It felt intense, but as I said, really lacking on quality. And by the end of it, you look at Norwich looked very short on options. In truth, Leeds looked pretty content to take it back to Carrow Road as well. And yeah, look, I think it could have been a better afternoon for Norwich City, and time will tell as to whether we reflect on this as a missed opportunity or not. But I felt coming here today really that Norwich City probably needed to have a lead to take to Carrow Road. It's even. They've got a chance to still in it. They didn't lose it. That's probably the one overarching positive. But I think the second half performance will cause concern, really, because they dropped off, they sunk and got deeper and deeper and deeper as the half went on. And Josh Sargent wasn't holding the ball up for them. They didn't really have a release. And you think about what they did so well in that Ipswich game with this approach, where, yes, they had to absorb pressure, but not necessarily in terms of chances, but more so in terms of territory. That was the case this afternoon. They conceded a lot of territory as the game wore on, and they really struggled to get out. And the moments they did get out, they made poor decisions, or Leeds defended well, to be frank, to turn it over, and Leeds were unable to cash in onto that. But all that second half did for me was allowed Leeds to grow in confidence, in rhythm, in flow, ahead of what will be now a very, make no bones about it, it's going to be a very difficult second leg for Norwich City. That does not mean it's beyond all reasonable doubt. I felt there was some okay performances. I think you look at Marcelino Nunez as maybe being the one who really stood out this afternoon in terms of his busyness off the ball and the way that he played. But yeah, I mean, not a game that I think will lived up to the sense of occasion that was in here. I'm struggling to think really of any opportunity, because Somerville had a chance at the near post that Gunn pushed around. That felt like Leeds' best opportunity. It was a game of nearly moments, really, and stood here and instantly after the final whistle, I felt probably Leeds would be the happier, because they've now got to take it back to Elland Road, a place where they've been very strong this season, having grown in confidence from this first leg, not having to chase the game to such an extent because they're not a goal down. And it feels like Norwich are probably going to go there and sit in and try and be obdurate and try and defend for 90 minutes. Will that work? I find that difficult, if I'm honest. But by the same token, you look at what David Wagner did at Huddersfield, and it was about taking games the distance, winning on penalties in those moments, creating those pressure moments that hopefully this team, because of the experience that Daniel Farke's referenced a lot as well, interestingly, will be able to then cash in on. But I just think it's so bold, hoping to go to Elland Road and restrict them for 90 minutes. But look, equally, and Wagner's right when he says this, every minute, every 10-minute block, every 5-minute block that you can survive at Elland Road, it puts more pressure onto Leeds. It creates more nervousness in that crowd. The issue then is if Leeds score early, but we've got so much time to dissect into this. So yeah, as a game, this was not great. It was not full of quality. It probably didn't live up to the expectation, the billing that maybe we thought, but Norwich is still in it, and they go to Elland Road still in it. And if there was an objective before the start of the day, it was to make sure that was the case. And it was probably going to be the case irrespective of what happened here this afternoon. Could they have made more of an intent to win it? Absolutely. But you do that and you leave spaces that Leeds can exploit in transition. So look, I think we could stand here and argue about pros and cons for all of the opportunity. I can really understand why Norwich fans probably feel slightly disappointed. I think the second half performance was a concern. The opening half an hour was good. Thereafter, felt a bit stodgy, lacking in rhythm and probably lacking in quality as well. And actually, the issue is when Norwich had to dip into their bench, the quality simply wasn't there. Their level did drop naturally. And that is a concern as well when you think about games going the distance and how much they're going to need those players in the moment. So yeah, that's kind of where I would say the situation is at this moment in time, to be honest. It's perfectly poised. Norwich have an opportunity, and now it's about whether or not they can cash into what will be very difficult circumstances and very difficult occasion. That being said, they've got experience. They've got players who know how to ride out adversity. The issue for me is more the quality, because I think Leeds United and away at Elland Road is going to be more of a football match, and it's going to be more about whether or not Leeds can break down Norwich City, and they proved it in the first leg. I think that's going to be really difficult, really difficult, and it's going to be up to Norwich to pose a threat on the counter and in transition. And if they can do that, then there's going to be an opportunity for them there, because I think you sensed it today. There felt like there was a vulnerability. There felt like there was space and opportunities for Norwich to exploit if they would have done that. They opted not to, and again, pros and cons behind doing that and behind not doing that. So I can understand why they settled in the end. I can also see the argument for trying to win it, but of paramount importance was that you don't lose it. And actually, I said this before the semi-finals, I was much more confident about Norwich in a one-off shootout game, almost do or die type of game, and it is do or die now at Elland Road. It is a case of win or bust for Norwich City, to either get to Wembley or to be playing Championship football next season. So in that sense, maybe it is that type of scenario that will help, but it can be argued either way, and we could stand here arguing for half an hour about it, but it is what it is. Josh Sargent, worth talking about him, because there was a concern late on, really. He went down holding that ankle that Norwich have been nursing for such a long period of time now. No one really around him. There's no real instance that I could think of that created that. I'm just trying to look to see if he's out there on the pitch at this moment in time, but I cannot see him, which again is David Wagner thinks he'll be okay for the second leg. Not completely ruled out Ashley Barnes yet, but it sounded like there's a very, very minute, small chance that he's going to make that. And I felt Sargent missed Barnes today in terms of that physical outlet, that ability then to go and stretch. He didn't quite have that. Gabriel Sara is a very different type of player, and I felt Leeds, again, we speak about neutralising threats. I think Leeds did very well to limit Norwich from those areas, and what they did so well actually was when you have Sainz did get those opportunities inside where he's looked to curl the ball into the corner. They closed those central lanes off very well, and they defended really compactly, and that's why I think Daniel Farke will probably get on the coach tonight feeling pretty pleased, because Norwich, if they were going to have a moment, felt like this was the most likely place to have it. That's not to say they won't at Ellen Road. And this Norwich team, as we know, are together, are fighting for each other, and have been really together for a long period of time. So they're going to need every ounce of that when they go to Ellen Road, and it's going to be such a difficult occasion and atmosphere for them to overcome. Leeds, at the time, felt that they could have had a penalty in the first half. I actually think it's a foul, but I think it's a redundant debate because I think it's outside the box. So we're talking about a free kick really, rather than a penalty. There was also some suggestions from Farker in the post-match press conference at Norwich, roughed up Nonto, so to speak, who got a yellow card for sarcastically applauding the official, which is great, and he had to take bruises and whatnot, but I don't think there was anything that was beyond the realms of what was in the laws that Norwich City deployed today. So I don't really think you've got a case to answer on that. But yeah, look, I think how full is your glass really is how you reflect on this game. There wasn't too much in terms of the game to discuss. It was, as I mentioned, two teams that really nullified each other and neutralised each other well. And if Norwich can do that over a second leg and maybe try and take this to distance now, maybe that's the game plan, to try and take this to penalties to have a chance. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a really, really, really difficult occasion, but not one that is insurmountable. And that's the key for Norwich City. I'd love to know your thoughts as well on this, because I feel like I've not been onto social media or been able to speak to fans yet, but I just get the sense that this might be one that splits opinion onto how you view this. So, missed opportunity, pleased with the position Norwich are in. What's kind of your thoughts and reflections on that? One final word I did want to, and I'll just pan you around here, because you'll see that is the snake pit. There is safe standing in there, which is great to see. That's going to be in place all across the lower Barclay in the second half, in the second half of the summer, ready for next season. So the atmosphere inside this place is worth a mention as well. There was a willingness to bring it to Ipswich-esque levels. We probably got there in terms of pre-game for the opening half an hour. Probably got a little bit flat as the game wore on, and that's natural given everything that we've spoken about. Norwich probably fading in terms of their performance levels, but the scenes before the game and the coach meet and all of those stuff transferred into the stands, had an effect on the players, and now they're going to have to deal with that atmosphere in a very different way when they go to Ellen Road, and it's going to be about quieting it down and managing it probably as well, and managing 10-minute spells to get through that contest. So it's ended here goalless, half-time in the tie really. Not the worst place for Norwich City to be, probably not the best place for them to be either. They are going to be even more of the underdog than they were today. That feels like a role that Wagner seems to relish, and he'll be hoping to replicate what he did with Huddersfield, which, I'll cast your mind back, they drew the first leg 0-0 with Sheffield Wednesday, a little bit of symmetry there, and then they drew 1-1 at Sheffield Wednesday. They conceded first, then scored an equaliser before going the distance and winning on penalties. They, of course, won the final. That finished 0-0. They won that on penalties as well. And knockout football generally is about the team who has the best defence. So there we go. We'll see what we get. From Carrow Road, from a beautifully sunny Carrow Road, there's a few players, just you can see behind me, family and friends kicking around on the pitch there. Very end of season feel. And that's it for this place until August. But hopefully, it will definitely one, potentially two massive games to play. Pinkin.com, the place to go for all the reaction. We'll have plenty more on YouTube as well. We'll hopefully record a podcast on this as well. Thank you very much for watching. And on to Thursday and that big occasion at Ellen Road. See you there.